Dear friends, adolescence education is a very important topic. All our teachers should know, and also parents must understand. In fact, the original word is derived from a Latin word which is called adolescere. In fact, the meaning of adolescere is to grow into maturity. Adolescence period is a bio-social transition period from childhood to adulthood. It is based on childhood experiences and accomplishments. Adolescence period, whenever we read about adolescence period, especially in the educational psychology, we read that adolescence is a period of stress and strain or stress and tension. And some of them will explain that it is a period of storm and strife. That means a lot of changes taking place in the adolescence period. Now, what are the changes? If you look at the physical or emotional, a lot of changes taking place. This period is heightened emotions. It also gives them temperamentally mood swing. People daydream, intense self-conscience is growing, and children are so excited emotionally in this period. So, understanding adolescence children is so important for a parent and a good teacher. We have a book written by Bob Curry S.J. It talks about the title of the book itself is so interesting. Title of the book is A Barefoot Counselor. It talks about every teacher as a counselor without having perhaps a clinical psychology certificate or counseling certificate, but by being a teacher, it is expected that every teacher is a mentor, a guide, a counselor. Now, therefore, a teacher must understand that children also not only biosocial but also intellectual and mental characteristics also develop. Because this period children develop their intelligence. Logical and mathematical thinking comes into a child. And therefore, they are capable of increasing the attention span. When the childhood, we have all noticed, small children are not able to concentrate for a long time. The adolescence period, slowly they are increasing the attention span. And therefore, what do they increase? They increase the development of their memory, their imagination, and their interest also. A lot of interest, new interest comes. And new interest can be picked up from what they watch, what they deal with in the peer group, what do they read in the newspapers and mass media, and what they get from the social media, and also what they get from their teachers. So that is why schools are so important. In fact, schools should create an atmosphere where every child feels comfortable. We say Jesuit education, the 21st century education skills. There's a book. In that book, it talks about that every school must be created as a safe environment for our child to grow, both physical, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally. So, in this adolescence period, what do we see? One of the characteristics of adolescence is peer group. A lot of influence from their companions, their age group, peer group happens. And slowly, the family influence diminishes and a friend circle will be developed. So the peer group becomes an important social force for their growth. And their physical activity increases in this period. And also they look for certain needs in their life. What are the needs they look for? Number one is a balance between security and freedom. They also have a lot of need for love, and love is the most misunderstood word in our world. People do not know because of media, our mass media, our social media, and our yes, even films, etc., showing love as a distorted way, distorted love. So therefore, teaching children about true love is very, very important. And it also, these youngsters, especially the teenagers, they look for approval, acceptance, recognition, encouragement. We need to give them. And every child, there is an innate need in every child in this age. That is, they want to express themselves. So self-expression is a need for the child. And therefore, in our schools, again, Jesuit schools, and most of these progressive schools will have a lot of extracurricular activities to give that balance. Not only academic input, but also creating the social development, creating and utilizing their energy, and also teaching them social skills and soft skills, leadership skills, for example. That happens only through co-curricular activities. And also a lot of sex education must be given to adult, especially the teenagers. And we as teachers must teach them to be interdependent, not totally dependent on somebody, and neither to be independent of somebody. We need this web of life. We talk about the entire universe. We are all interlinked. None of us can be a separate entity, cut off from the other person. We are all social beings. That has to be given in the classroom so that the children will grow with the interconnectedness. And we need to give them a lot of support. And this is the age the children look for their own values. They look for role models. They look for a philosophy for themselves. And it is the duty of the parents and teachers to provide that for them. When we look at in the Indian context, what do we see the youngsters, the challenges faced by the teenagers from outside? For example, the media, which I already mentioned, and also a lot of socio-political the context which they are living in affecting them. A lot of conflict is developed, and also sometimes the school discipline, too much of discipline is also going to adversely affect the children, and therefore a balanced way with giving them responsibility is more important. And this period children can have a lot of emotional disturbance, and also a psychological disturbance, which is called emotional, and also physical disturbance. They can also have social disturbance, as I said, religious fanaticism, for example, or the fundamentalistic way of thinking, or the fake news which they are getting through the social media, and the revengeful attitude which is created by our filmy world, etc., is affecting the children. For example, these days, dangerous games are there, internet games, which are all affecting them. Cartoons, for example, small children they are already picked up with these cartoons and so on. They become it's so much of influence on them as they grow up. So We need to have the schools and education for adolescents to make them proactive, to make them responsible, to make them the future citizens of the nation and the world. So therefore, school should assume responsibility for vocational guidance, career guidance, etc. Now, the NEP, New Education Policy, talks about this vocational education and career guidance elaborately. I think it's a good sign. School should not implant habits of unquestioning obedience. Again, I recall the National Education Policy talks about critical thinking and innovativeness. I think that is what exactly I feel that adolescents should be taught. Uh, Therefore, my dear teachers, you need to be a good counselor. We say every teacher must be a mentor, because if you guide them, your students will become better. So, the education of adolescents, we need to look at 8 aspects. Number one is we need to teach them to live together in the society. Therefore, the art of living together is very, very significant in this context for our children. Second, we need to teach them wholesome education, not simply teaching only cognitive development or mental development. No, we need to teach our children to grow with their entire personality. Integral development, we call. For example, what we call is the all-round development. It's different language we use, but ultimately what we mean is psychological, sorry, mental, that is intellectual and emotional, and also skill developed education is must. We need to accept the individual differences, because I always believe and I am convinced, and even the new education policy talks about that, no? Accepting the uniqueness of every individual. We cannot teach our children with one size fit for all method. Therefore, we need to teach them understanding their individuality, and we need to give them a lot of freedom with the responsibilities. In India, I think the adolescents children must be taught a lot of scientific attitude. Otherwise, children will not grow. They will grow as sometimes the memory based education or whatever we call it. We create only intellectual monsters. Scientific attitude means everything with a question, and they simply believe without having a reasoning in their attitude. And we need to create the value of interdependence, because we are all interconnected. Create physical exercises, encourage them to play, to have participating into any group activities, which helps them a lot of creativity and physical exercises. Discourage them to be narrow minded. So, physical development, mental development, and emotional development, social development, etc., must be the focus of adolescence education in our schools, because adolescence is a period of growing to maturity. It's a process of growing from adulthood to old age. Sorry. Now, who can really develop adolescence period to be proactive, to be mature? I believe along with the parents, only teachers can help. That is why the significance of teaching in the 21st century calls for understanding our children. I'm sure that our students will understand their responsibility and develop a positive attitude and aptitude, And also our teachers will come up with their understanding of education as a holistic, all round, better for their students to be better citizens, to be better global citizens, in fact. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.